Keefe D will be back in court tomorrow trying to access bail money that Cash Jones, a.k.a. Wack 100, attempted to provide.
You know Mr. Davis, sir? I know of the passing. I know his...
As is his pattern, he talks too much. He told his wife on the jail phone, which reminds you every single time you call that it's being recorded, that Wack 100 was bailing him out in order for them to make some reality television, and that Wack was acting as an agent for TV producers with the bond money. In Keefe D's defense, Wack 100 did say the same thing on Vlad TV, but after hearing this, the judge decided that letting Wack pay Keefe D so he could get out and they could work on for-profit projects would violate Nevada's Son of Sam statute. Son of Sam was a serial unaliver in New York in the 1970s who sold his book rights and some other stuff, so certain states passed laws saying criminals can't benefit from their crimes. Now, Dwayne Davis, a.k.a. Keefe D's lawyer, will be making the case tomorrow that since Keefe D has not been convicted, obviously, that he has the right to get out and work, and if he wants to talk about this case, he can, and in fact, he needs to, so that he can earn money to pay for his legal defense, which ironically is primarily due to the fact that he was given interviews about the case. Boy, oh boy, people talking about Tupac makes money, it gets you charged, it might help you beat the case. Tupac's death, the gift that keeps on giving for so many other than him, because he's no longer here to benefit. But I do think his lawyer is correct in arguing he should be able to get out because he hasn't been convicted. The trial date is set for November, but I would assume that will get pushed back. Of course, as we've seen in a Young Thug case, these big, complex cases, court dates often get pushed back. Now, long before artificial intelligence made nice artwork easy, for a few mouse clicks, Keefe D paid, or somebody paid, a pretty good artist to make these high-quality drawings of him being involved in the hit on Tupac in Las Vegas. Before Vlad started paying him for interviews, back in 2018, Keefe D published a book called Compton Street Legend. Well, it's a graphic novel, actually. It's available on Kindle right now. The artwork is pretty good. I wonder how much Keefe paid for it. The text is a bit overblown in the manner typical to urban literature. For example, here he is describing the moment the South Side's car pulled up next to Suge's car with Pac in the passenger seat. Quote, like two rams locking horns. Suge and I looked each other dead in the eyes. No words exchanged. The time for talking had passed. SHIT was about to go down. Now, this graphic novel was published a year before Keefe went on Vlad, and was probably part of his general marketing plan and hustle. Vlad hasn't revealed how much he paid Keefe D, but I'm sure it went up each time he got interviewed. In fact, Vlad and Keefe had a new interview come up scheduled, but of course, Keefe got picked up back in September of 2023. So what was the twisted path that the self-described Compton Street legend Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, uncle of assumed Tupac unaliver Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, took to find himself in the Clark County Jail in Nevada with cancer, dying from cancer, according to him and his lawyer, facing life in prison for helping to extinguish the flame of Tupac Amaru Shakur. Back in 2011, retired LAPD Detective Greg Kading published a book that included information about a confession from Davis. Davis claimed he didn't know he was going to be recorded, and he agreed to the confession as part of a deal on a separate criminal case he faced, a case that involved CP, a longtime Compton specialty, a.k.a. Sherm, a.k.a. Water, a.k.a. Love Boat. Compton, in fact, was an important dot on the landscape of the black criminal underworld long before gangster rap, back in the 70s, because it was a major source of water, aka XCP. Eric Von Zip, the alleged linchpin between Keefe D and Puff Daddy, if you believe that particular story, was, according to street lore and according to some police, well, according to people who told me, one of the small circle of New York kingpins of XCP for many decades. Dust Love Boat Sherm, known by different names in different places, was very popular around the country in the mid-70s to late 70s. Matter of fact, my uncle, aka my mother's boyfriend, someone who grew up with my father, house I lived with him and my mother on the infamous Monterey back in the early 80s. I lived in a CP house. It got raided, and my uncle went to prison for a few years. He was so out of his mind. My father was in the court and he got sentenced. They took him right into custody, and he gave my father some H and some P in the court. He handed it to him because he had it on him because he didn't know if he was going to go to jail. But anyways, so it was very popular in the mid to late 70s all over. It maintained its popularity in a few certain pockets of people and cities. I guess Chicago a little bit, New York definitely, DC, Philly, and there's been blacks in all those cities. There's a specific block in New York, a building, in fact, in New York that all this time has run, supposedly even up till very recently, as a place you could go and get that stuff. Eric Von Zip was involved in it. And Compton guys were always one of the few peoples that got the chemicals in LA, set up labs, and sometimes Compton or Watts, also in the deserts north of LA, Lancaster, Palmdale, and east, out in the Mojave. And they would go through the very dangerous process of manufacturing. So anyways, a small amount of money would get you a very profitable load of water. Once it was sent to the East Coast or Midwest, it would get sold on the street at a markup that was even better than H or Coke. You could come up in that game faster than anything, but it was a small circle of people, and it was physically damaging. My friend Jay Joker, rest in peace, he was locked up with one of the Bloods that was one of the big known cooks, and he was all burned up from doing cooking. Cavario said he knew some guys that was involved with it for a long time, and seemed to develop Perkins. Like, he bumped into a guy on the street who was like 40 years old. It was trembling because he had been buying the water and soaking it in or putting the mint leaves in it and, selling it. So very dangerous. And Tupac's homicide got back in the investigatory limelight because of the LAPD investigating the Biggie hit. When Kading looked up Dwayne Davis and his brother Kevin in the federal database, he discovered there was an ongoing DEA investigation into them in Richmond, Virginia. This is like 06, 07 for coke. Now, back in 97, just months after Biggie's homicide, Keefe D was caught in a smaller coke conspiracy. He went away, did 4 years. So in 07, they saw that Keefe and his brother were on the radar for this Richmond investigation, and a guy named Pedro Hill out of Richmond, Virginia, became a DEA informant, revealed that Keefe D had hooked him up with a Cali plug that sold him 200 bricks at a time for $19K each. So Keefe was definitely, at least, knew some big people and was in the mix with some big deals and was making some serious money, at least sometimes. But what put Keefe under the gun facing a life sentence was a water deal that Greg Kading and the DEA set him up for in Compton, where he delivered a gallon to this DEA CI. $10,500 was the price. Now, this gallon probably cost a few $100s in materials to make. And if, say, it had been a buyer from, DC, who was going to take it out and break it all the way down and put it on one of those blocks and sell it, dime bags or 20 bags, however they sell it, hundreds and hundreds of thousands, couple $100,000 maybe off of 10,000, which was made off a few $100s of chemicals. So that's how profitable that game could be. But that single gallon made Keefe eligible for 25 to life, which just shows you just how serious it was and why only a few played in that world. So the way that, marijuana has the smallest markup and the lightest penalties, then coke a little more, and meth and H, PCP is something you can really come up in fast, but you could be killed or hurt yourself making it, and they slam you because it's like it's a lab. It's like a METH lab. You're not only creating a dangerous substance, you could hurt people while you're doing it. So once this gallon deal went down, Kading and his partners swooped in on Keefe D at the same house, actually, where the Las Vegas PD ended up arresting them last year and sprung their trap, where they told them what they had on them, made their offer, and this led to the now infamous recordings of Dwayne Davis and Greg Kading. So, will Keefe get out tomorrow or soon after? Well, Keefe and his lawyer are optimistic that contracts can be signed to get this TV stuff going so he can make money. His lawyer, Mr. Arnold, confirmed in a financial deal would aid Keefe D in paying for his own services. I could see the ruling going either way. Sounds like to me, it doesn't violate the son of Sam. He's not convicted. Now, what's another thing interesting, Keefe D's lawyer is hoping that Keefe will be granted, that Suge Knight will let him visit him in maximum security California prison. Whatever happened that night, if they were shooting in that car, they could have easily killed Suge. Suge has refused to meet with authorities about the case, but Carl Arnold, Keefe D's lawyer, thinks Suge might meet with Keefe D, who can talk him into testifying, I don't know, saying that it wasn't Keefe that was the shooter and that it didn't seem like a hit and that it just happened spur of the moment, I assume. And Keefe's defense, of course, as we know, is that he was just making up stories to get out of the criminal case, and then he was talking about it recently to make money. And as crazy as that sounds, I'm making money talking about it. Greg Kading's made a lot of money talking about it. That Tupac movie, a lot of people make money off talking about Tupac. So I guess Keefe figured, why shouldn't he get in on it? Keefe D is upset at his old Southside homies for not bailing him out. It's only $112,000. And if somebody else had $112,000, he'd be out. It's not that he can't get out, it's that the Wack 100 doing it would violate the criminal benefiting off his own crime law. But Keefe put a lot of money in a lot of people's pockets in the dope game over the years. Why can't they come up with $112,000? Well, it's usually how it goes. Keefe thought he'd be out right now, and investigators reached out to Vlad Lyubovny for his raw footage of the interviews, aka Vlad TV, but he said he's not going to cooperate because he doesn't want his guests feeling like he cooperates with the police. It's smart on Vlad's part. He also said that aside from minor edits, his interviews are mainly posted in their entirety, so there's nothing the police need from those interviews that's not already online. So tomorrow, will Keefe D get Wack 100's? Will Wack 100's cash get Keefe D out of prison so that he can defend himself via interviews from the crimes he's charged with that his own earlier interviews got him charged with in the first place? The world is all upside down, but I'm still Al Prophet. This is still American Dope.